Self-awareness is your ability to perceive and understand the things that make you who you are as an individual, including your personality, actions, values, beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. Essentially, it is a psychological state in which the self becomes focus of attention. If you're highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself, manage your emotions, align your behavior with your values, and understand correctly how others perceive you. Those who are highly self-aware can interpret their actions, feelings, and thoughts objectively. It's a rare skill, as many of us spiral into emotional-driven interpretations of our circumstances. Developing self-awareness is important because it allows us to assess our own growth and effectiveness and change course when necessary. When self-awareness tips into self-consciousness, we are reluctant to share certain aspects of ourselves. We develop a persona that lacks authenticity. When we look inward, we can clarify our values, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, strengths, and weaknesses. We are able to recognize the effect that we have on others. People with self-awareness are happier and have better relationships, and they also experience a sense of personal and social control. When we look outward, we understand how people view us. People who are aware of how people see them are more likely to be empathetic to people with different perspectives. People whose self-perceptions matches others' perceptions are more likely to empower, include, and recognize others. Many of us grew up with the message that you should not show your emotions, so we attempt to ignore or suppress them with negative emotions, and that doesn't go very well for us. We either internalize them, resulting in anger, resentment, depression, and resignation, or we externalize them and blame, discount, or bully others. As you lean into your strengths, become the better version of yourself. You can use this idealized self to keep moving in the right direction and not be distracted by setbacks and other obstacles. The road to self-awareness is a journey, and the most self-aware people see themselves on a quest to mastery rather than at a particular destination. As you move forward in developing your self-awareness, ask yourself regularly, how will you move toward the best version of yourself today? Awesome, awesome. Welcome everyone to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway and your channel for community support, help, friendship, love, and knowledge. And you know what time it is? It's Friday night. It's time to feed your mind and grow your
I'm like, those are fine. I can't see.
Ooh. Good to have everybody with us tonight, and we're talking about how do we identify self-awareness. And we got a lot of information and things to go through. Good to have everybody with us. Theresa tmdanton, Dalibor Suki, Jasmine and Nick over there. Grandpa Brian, good to see you. Grandpa Brian is coming from Theresa's neck of the woods, her backyard there. So you're visiting her, I take it, and that's a wonderful thing.
Trina, not Theresa.
I'm sorry, Trina. Did I say Theresa?
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, because I just introduced you. Terena's house. Good. Awesome. You made it. Hi, Hannah Ray. Good to see you as well. Wonderful to have you with us tonight. Love it, love it, love it. So we are talking about, and before we get into that, let's go ahead and check the chat room here. Let's see what's going on. Oh, I absolutely love this. William Swan Jr., Cogito ergo sum. That is Rene Descartes, a French philosopher. I think, therefore I am. Yeah, that's Latin. Wonderful. I think he found that he could not doubt himself, that he existed. He was the one doing the doubting in the first place. So awesome comment. Love that. Thank you. Beautiful. Hi, Scotty boy. Beloved Abstract, good to see you as well. Welcome. Let's see. Lucky Stone, good to have you. Yes. Yeah, sorry, Lucky Stone had a little mishap on the scheduling there. I figured that out at the very last moment. So your wait is over. Here we are. Cool. Let's see. Mary Wins, always a pleasure to have you with us, Mary Wins. Love it. Loretta Enigma, good to see you as well. Wonderful. All right, you guys. Well, welcome everyone. Hope everybody had a really good week. Lots going on for you. I'm sure it's that time of year. So we're getting into this self-awareness, and self-awareness really tests your reality, and it's about being more aware of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, developing that keen sense of self. Uh, and that's what's really interesting about this. When I first started with my guide, this was the very first step I took, was understanding self-awareness. I started working on all of this. So it was wonderful to see you tonight, Trina. How are you? It's been a long
Great.
time.
Yes, it has
You
been.
look wonderful.
Thank you. I just got home from work and here's Brian.
Yes. You've got a visitor. That's awesome. Good for you.
It is. I love when we get to meet. It's always such a
That's
a gift.
fantastic. And of
Yeah.
course, Luna loves her Aunt Trina. So
She does. Yeah. She's sitting in my lap just like normal.
oh, I love that. Oh, I bet it's great having her around. That's
Yes.
wonderful. Yeah.
She is a bucket of love.
Yes, she is. Beautiful dog. Definitely
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's loving that garden. I could tell that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I love that fountain back there. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want that
I've had it
fountain.
for years. I love it too. I saw it and I was like,
Gotta have it.
I earned that. Yep. Yep.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right.
That area of your garden that looks like it has all like a sand, like all fine gravel or sand. Do you use that for meditation? And
Yeah, that fountain has always been like a portal.
okay.
So,
I could see
yeah,
why.
it really is. It's always been magical, and I've had some powerful experiences in front of it with clients. So, yeah, it's got a lot of memories and a lot of power. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
All right. Just have a couple slides to get started here. Nothing major. Just kind of wanted to go over some of the basics with this about self-awareness, and it really is the cornerstone. It's the start of a personal ascension, and understanding that you're just way more than just the human you came here to be and the ego that you possess. So the first thing I wanted to really talk about were the three categories of self-awareness. And these are the things that you want to really ask yourself. And, you know, many of us here are on so many different levels. We have advanced people here. We have people who are just learning about all of this. So we're just kind of covering the gamut here tonight. And then we'll get everybody's feelings and thoughts about the topic. But the three categories of self-awareness are: what am I feeling? What are you feeling at that moment? And what am I doing? And what am I thinking? Being aware of your thoughts is a must, because you can't make any adjustments if you're not aware of those thoughts and feelings. Now, emotional intelligence is about self-recognition, self-management. But not only that, it's social management and social recognition. And then if you want to kind of get into this a little deeper, you get into the self-perception, self-regard, self-actualization, emotional self-awareness, self-expression, emotional expression, assertiveness, independence, stress management, flexibility, stress tolerance, optimizing that. And then decision making, problem solving, reality testing, impulse control. So when you're dealing with a situation where things are really getting out of hand, how are you testing that reality and that impulse control? Are you making a decision to be emotional about that situation, or are you just making a decision to be the observer and to just kind of watch and see what happens? Then you've got the interpersonal relationships, empathy, and social responsibility. So this all kind of encompasses that emotional intelligence. And these are the things that we work on when we're in the self-awareness mode, and getting into all of that. But so you understand through the videos that Theresa and I compile and put together, and we co-create these. So you already kind of have a feel for what our thinking is and how we see things. But the reason I like to bring people on is to get other people's opinions and ideas, and maybe there's these are the people that you'll resonate with, or you might be in that stage of your growth. And so it just kind of pulls everything in a little closer together. So, real quick, Theresa, I'll start with you. Your thoughts and feelings about self-awareness, and how did you learn to become self-aware? How did you understand what was going on in the brain? And were you aware you were rewiring your thoughts and your brain?
Well, that happened for me long before my spiritual development
Okay.
and spiritual growth. It happened way back in the 80s when I was hosting programs and, you know, meetings, and it was all business related though.
Mm-hmm.
And they were teaching you even back then, Dale Carnegie School, how to interact with people and be more self-aware of your own actions and how you react to the audience or other coworkers. And so a lot of that became like a programming for me, automatic in communications. But from a spiritual perspective, it's a whole other
Different ball game, isn't it?
perspective, a completely different ball game, because
Yeah.
you could take yourself out of a business situation and learn how to be very effective, which I was in business, but at home on a personal level, interacting with others, there were triggers, there were emotional outbursts, there were, because I couldn't keep it under, I didn't feel like I had to keep it under control when I was at home. I felt like I didn't have to be in a
Oh, that's a
mask.
good point. Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to be performing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm free to be who I want to be in front of my friends and my family members. And so therefore, when they pissed me off, I didn't treat them like a customer or a coworker. I was ready to fight back, you know. So it wasn't until I guess I started interacting with all of you, and then particularly in these past couple of years when things have gotten so intense for me on many levels, that I've developed a sense of self-check.
Do you find that now, because of where you're at and all the work, the shadow work and everything that you've been doing, that you feel like you don't have to be something different now when you're at home, that you can actually apply that 24/7, so to speak?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. And that goes everywhere. It goes beyond. It's like that circle,
Mm-hmm.
that pebble that you drop in the water and the rings get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
So it actually helps me get better relationship with those that I've been in conflict with that are close in my family circle. And then going out further from that, friends, and then other people on the street or people I meet here.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And the more you do the work, the more
Mm-hmm.
you do the self-examination, ask yourself, what can I control? What can I not control? Which is what I wrote over here over my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that there's an emotional intelligence. Those were great graphics, by the way. Thank you. Once you get this feel for how everything works, it becomes easier to have more empathy for others. But I still have my moments, like today when I called you and went, I've had it. I can't take this anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have a little vent. You know how a roof has a vent valve? So that when the heat in your house builds
Boiling
up,
water and steam comes out. That's
or your shower has a
releasing
vent cap.
the energy. Yeah. Yes.
But now I know the importance of those vent caps, and they're
Yes.
only momentary. And I
Pressure
go through
relief valve.
Yeah. So I go through the quick review.
Yes.
Why am I feeling this way? How am I reacting? And
what are these emotions? What am I feeling? Yep.
The most helpful thing is mindfulness. I said, okay, Laurie, thank you. I'm going to go seed the lawn now. I'm going to go do what I can do.
Something
I
mindful.
can't do, yeah.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
keep going.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that's what it's meant to me, to become more self-aware, is
Yes.
learning how to master those emotions and let them rip.
And it's
accept the
okay to
pressure
slip.
release.
It's okay to slip. It's
Yeah.
okay to vent and do all
Yeah.
that. It's just another opportunity to find control later down the road.
What I don't do is I don't vent at someone anymore. I
Uh-huh.
don't vent right at someone. I don't go into conflict mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a competition anymore.
Right.
It doesn't have to be. You might want it to be a competition. You can think what you want to think about me. You can feel whatever it is you want to feel about me.
Right.
But I will continue to be my authentic self and just keep on doing what I'm doing. How you think of me doesn't affect me anymore.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
It doesn't trigger me anymore. And if you try to exert force on me, I won't conflict. I won't get into conflict anymore.
Yeah.
Trina knows that about me.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into conflict anymore. I'll just be like,
step back. Yeah.
yeah.
Let it all just do whatever it's going to do.
I don't explode anymore. And that has been a huge change for me.
Isn't
That
it
is
amazing?
growth.
Yeah, it's big time growth. Yeah,
Huge.
most definitely.
Huge.
Well, Trina, how about you? How do you identify with self-awareness? Curious as to your thoughts and opinions, and then we'll go to Grandpa Brian after that.
You know, it started when I was so little because I could be in 2 dimensions at the same time. And that was really confusing.
Yeah,
So,
1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah, it really was. It was a conundrum, but it was really hard, especially when you couldn't talk about it in this reality. That was even harder. So I had to decide, when I was like 3 years old, am I going to trust the world, or am I going to trust this spiritual part of me? And it was like a no-brainer. So when I started realizing that there was more to me, I realized there was more to everybody else too.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it was automatic. It was automatic. It wasn't like I had any kind of a special thing, because I would see like the Lord with millions of people at the same time. So I was like, this isn't about me. This is about us. And I knew that everybody else had the same thing that I had, but they just forgot.
Yeah.
So that was, very, very challenging to grow up with those concepts. And then you try to shove it down, you get to a teenager, you rebel against it. You just want to be normal, you
want to fit in.
Yeah. Then the universe really kicks your butt really bad, because it's like, that's not what you're supposed to do. So we are going to send you some stuff. Get ready.
Exactly.
So then I had to learn how to fight. Then you go through the fighting part, and then you get past the fighting part to where Teresa's at, to where there's no more fight. I automatically win. There's there's just it's so different. You evolve through these layers of consciousness, and the worse you're getting your butt kicked, it's the better job you're doing. Honestly, I know that's hard to say and feel, because it's real, but these times where you really get it handed to you, that's usually when you're going to go through the biggest growth and change that's unchangeable.
Yeah, you can't go back.
Yeah.
It's like a wake-up call, isn't it? It's a big wake-up call.
What a trip to be so consciously aware at such a young age.
It was challenging.
That's incredible. But look at you now. Look at how much growth you've gone through and where you're at. So,
this is the thing. It's like, it's so hard to have that when you're growing up, and you look at the world and everybody's like, don't talk about it. This ain't that ain't real. You can't see ghosts. I'm like, yes, smack, I can too, whatever, so you just hear this can't be, that can't be, this isn't, and you hear that over and over. So it was a fight, to hold on to my belief system, because it was so different from everybody else's around me.
Yeah, because you knew what was happening, but everyone else had not even an inclination of what was happening. So there was nothing to base it from.
And then to be even stuck with, the 3 things. You came to graduate. You came to remember who you are. And you came to be like Jesus. I mean, that's some tall order shit right there.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. I'm a little kid. I'm like, Oh yeah. Oh, that's yeah. I know
Yeah.
this. I didn't even know he walked on water and stuff yet. And then I found that out. I was like, oh great. You know, I was like, that's completely off the hook, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, but he's like, no, you all can do this. And then I started doing the healing work and I started seeing people do it. And I was like, oh smack, this is really accessible in this dimension. I was like, so this is kind of why I came, is to cheerleader people on. It's like, come on, people, activate your superpowers. We're ready. Let's do it. It's time.
Right.
Go.
Yeah.
Go.
And
Go now.
understand that anything is possible, but it's very difficult when everyone's telling you it's not possible.
Yes.
And you're bucking the system, so to speak.
right.
And you're just being you. And
the coolest
you
part
are.
was like, my possible is never going to be like your possible. And all of our possibilities are so radically awesome and so radically different because there's no one like you. So when you can start to see the individualized persona of human beings as spectrums of wisdom collected over eons of time, expressing in this now moment, in this matrix, some asleep, some woke, you know, all the different levels and layers. And it's like, that's how we get the fullness of this experience. It's just so beautiful when you can see it from a higher place.
Well, just as you've said many, many times, as above, so below,
Yeah.
when you come from the etheric realms, you're so used to being such a unit, a cohesive, a consciousness. And really the purpose of coming here is learning how to be the individual, how to be solitary in with your experience of who you came here to be.
Learn to be what you are not.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So awesome. I mean, it's so awesome. So
Isn't it just
awesome? It's just
mind blowing.
So, you come to be what
and
you
then
are
on top of that, you're not allowed to remember where you came from. So,
you know, if you did, it would ruin the whole experience. You wouldn't even be able to have it. So
absolutely.
I get it. I understand the rules, and that's really good too when you can start to understand the rules of the game.
So true. Love it.
Yeah.
Love that. How about you, Grandpa Brian? Thank you, Trina. How about you, Grandpa Brian? How do you identify self-awareness?
Real quick, Theresa,
Yes.
Don't ever think because you're getting angry, you're not love of light. Look at Jesus, what he did in the temple.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure there was probably other times that were never mentioned where he's seen something that angered him. That anger is attached to this physical body. So it's all part about being human. So when he got all pissed off, started flipping tables over, trashing everything, that was a human emotion. It wasn't that he wasn't of love and light. It was just he became overcome with emotion that was attached to this physical body and became angry. So don't ever get down on yourself about that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Don't get angry.
I'll tell you one thing, Brian. You're absolutely right about that. And it took me a while to get to that point where I could accept that and not be feel shameful or guilty. I come from an environment where so many types of responses to situations were not something to be proud of.
Yeah.
And I was very cautious of wanting to project that image of myself. I wanted to be different, and I was different, but I fed into those cycles. And once you can become self-aware to the point where you recognize them to be cycles, repetitive patterns, then you go, oh no more rinse repeat for me. I'm not going to keep repeat. So you break that genetic, if you will, or the as Laurie calls it, the karmic cycle. You're the one to break it in your family because you're not going to fall into that pattern anymore.
Yep.
Being constantly argumentative or constantly in competition or one up somebody in a conversation. It was a nightmare. Yep. And I never want to go back to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And so now I can actually relax. Yeah.
I had a vision. Was it yesterday, day before? It was the coolest thing, guys, because I was wanting to know the mysteries. I was just like, show me the mysteries. Show me the mysteries that I need to know now. And they showed me that our heart it's the Akashic records, it's the scrolls, and they showed me how the heart unrolls to the scroll. It was so beautiful, and that your avatar is like a projection from the code held within the heart structure. It's the magnetic part that puts all the atomic properties into position. It was really cool what they were showing me. So I just wanted to tell you guys that.
That's interesting.
That was amazingly cool.
Everything you are is deep within yourself. It's
Written
just
within
discovering
your heart.
that. Yeah. Pulling it from that space.
Yeah.
But gosh, when you're in a society that's just constantly pounding this message on you, how do you do that? How do you pull that out? And that's really the process. That's the shadow work. That's the really going deep and getting into it. But yes, agreed. Totally agree. How about you, Brian? How do you identify that self-awareness?
For me, is when it really happened was when self-acceptance.
Ooh, yes.
Acceptance for who I used to be, who I become, acceptance of the lessons that I've learned, because all that has made me who I am. And now I'm aware, okay, that's where self-awareness comes in. I'm aware that those were lessons now that I needed to learn. And what did I learn from those lessons?
Yeah.
So it's all about
growth.
It starts with all self. Self-acceptance, like I said,
self-love.
Self-love. It all has to do with the self. So when you start going inside yourself and you actually really start truly figuring out who you are as a person, not just what you put on the outside for everybody to see, but who you truly are and who you truly came down here to be, that's when you'll find your true self-awareness about yourself.
Have you found that others tend to kind of put you in a box and try to express and put their feelings about who they think you are and break, it's like, I'm not responsible for how you think about me. I'm just responsible for how I'm going to react and how I'm going to be in this life, right?
Well, I look at it this way. Probably every single one of you have a different perception of me. It's
yes,
your
absolutely.
Perception.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't define who I am.
No, it doesn't.
It's just your perception of who you think I am.
Yeah, that was the point.
Yep.
You got it. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. That was beautiful.
You're welcome.
Delabor, how about you? How do you identify it with self-awareness?
Well, I guess I came to my awareness of self-awareness by seeing the negative example of it, by identifying people in my circles that demonstrated massive lack of self-awareness, and going out of my way to not be like them. Because I think I must have been like maybe 12 years old when I figured out that the 10 commandments were incomplete, that at the very least there should be an 11th commandment that says, be not an asshole upon this earth. And lack of self-awareness, that's how you would pretty much define an asshole, because that's usually a person with no self-control, a person with no emotional control, and that stems from a lack of mind control or thought control. I'll give you a great example, especially like the inadvertent assholes. Like, I have a cousin, and if you have a conversation with him about anything, within 5 minutes he will manage to switch the topic to gas-powered hot water heaters. Why? Because that's the business that he's in, right? So in other words, every single conversation somehow gets oriented towards like hot water heaters. It's like, who's interested in that? And by going out of my way to not do the whole monkey see, monkey do thing, of conformity to society and everything like that, and not wanting to be like these people for these particular characteristics, that's how I became aware of my own self-awareness and the need for, self-editing, emotional control, thought control, that you have to consider how other people react to what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't control what people think, but I can give them a good impetus to think only good things about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if
By,
if yeah, by how I act, right?
mm-hmm.
If there's if once I leave this place, wherever it is, or the house that I live in, the neighborhood or whatever, if somebody asks somebody else, like, oh, what did you think of Dalibor M. Suki? What I
Mm-hmm.
would like them to say is, oh, he was a decent guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an honorable man. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, he was so smart or whatever
Yeah.
or something. No,
Yeah.
I couldn't care less about that.
Yeah. Well, let
So
me ask you this real quick. Can you be a good person without being self-aware?
probably not. Probably not, because
Well,
you have to consider it from the other person's perspective. And if you
Mm-hmm.
want to obey the universal law that's common to all religions, do unto others the way you would have others do unto you, and know thyself, and all these other like key principles, then you have to be self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
You have to consider other people's viewpoints and
Yeah.
attitudes. Definitely.
Yeah. Theresa, you want to comment on that? Go ahead.
well, I wanted to add in. There's, I can't hear. There's a huge echo. Wow. Okay. So Robert asked a question. Or he made a statement up there. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we can ever really be truly self-aware. Now
Ooh.
that might sound a little strange to somebody, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a study done when I was prepping for this show. I noticed that there was a study done by Dr. I want to say Urich. I don't know if it's Urich or Eurich. He was doing a study and he found out through surveys and the study he was doing that like 98% of the people think they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% truly are. He says it's no one can have perfect self-awareness. And as Jazz was saying in response to Robert, she thinks it's done in layers. Goes
Mm-hmm.
back to what Trina was saying,
Mm-hmm.
that over time it builds and it builds and it builds. And so it's not an overnight success story.
Yeah, you don't just
My,
flip the switch and I'm self-aware. No. That doesn't
no,
work that way.
but it took me at least 2 years to understand what you all meant when you were talking about self-awareness.
Oh,
I,
interesting.
I was looking at it only from the aspect of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So self-awareness to me was recognizing that I'm not just that I'm part of a whole oneness, and being self-aware was that I was aware of my body, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm a spirit or a soul, not just a human.
Yeah, it comes
I
in
didn't take
chapters.
it. Yeah, I didn't
Mm.
take it to the level of emotional
I
wellness
see. Yeah,
or
interesting.
getting to know your own character to the extent that you're willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you're a really ass butt sometimes, aren't you? You really think you know stuff, don't you? I mean, I had to really confront myself and go, where did that come? Oh, because you're freaking egocentric, is what you are. You're being an ego crackhead about this, you know? And so I actually had to start having conversations and doing mirror work just to have a conversation with me
Mm-hmm.
and be honest. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, then you can't be honest with anybody else around you.
It's true.
So it starts right here.
Mm-hmm.
So for the past 2 years, I've been asking myself these deep, deep questions and going and doing. I'll spend time in front of the mirror. I was
Mm-hmm.
there today.
Mm-hmm.
I was there today, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? You need to chill. You need to breathe. You need to not look at yourself this way. You need to not grit your teeth because this is your temper kicking up again.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't felt that way in a very long time. So don't undo everything you've done. And I had to, and that really snapped me back in place. But if I'm not being honest with myself, then I'm going to believe more things about myself that are false. See, I think that's what's happening, right,
Mm-hmm.
Trina and Brian? It's we believe things about ourselves that aren't true, and that puts us into a cycle. And so then we project that
Yeah.
onto others.
Yeah.
and what we get back is crap because we're putting crap out there.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert's right. But yes, Robert, I do believe that over time we can get to the point where we flip that script. And now we're in the upper 98%. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Go
know
ahead,
what
Trina.
I found out too? We need to have compassion with ourselves
Yeah.
on that, of the self-awareness part. And that's why they say you can't ever find self-awareness. The more I dig into what we are as a human body, I see that we're connected to these chakras and we're connected to these glands in our brain and our body and bacteria and fungi, and they all make you feel things. They're all giving you signals. So it's not only you. It's just not only you. There's so much more to
So much
you.
to unpack and unwrap.
There's so much that's not actually you. But it's like, but to know you can choose what energy you want to be, that's mastering the field. Because that's why we can't perceive our self-awareness, because what you are is even a human body is an antenna that's connected to so much we can't even comprehend, down to bacteria and gut operating in our stomach, making us crave food and do all this stuff and have cycles, and it's insanity. So have compassion with yourself and know there's a lot of things influencing you that are outside of you.
Yeah, and passion for others, compassion for others' paths and where they're at on their path. Yeah, totally agree with that. Amazing. Nick, what's your thoughts on self-awareness? How do you identify with self-awareness? I'm real curious. And then Jasmine after you.
Okay, so for my self-awareness, it started very young. There I was, a toddler. No, it couldn't have been no older than between 1 and 2. I was watching A Land Before Time. I love dinosaurs.
I love that
and then
show.
I see my reflection.
You know it's on now on YouTube. I'm guilty. I watched an episode. We grew up
then
with
I
that
saw a
show.
reflection in the mirror in the entertainment system, and I just started staring at myself. And then for some reason I started asking myself questions, and it just kind of trickled down from there. So more accurate question for me is how do I refine and improve self-awareness? And I would say like 7 years ago, I started doing that. I was finding all of these different books on mentalism and stoicism and things that have to do with the mindset and blah, 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 blah. And I found 2 things that have stuck when it comes to self-awareness. It's what you think and the habits that you apply. Those 2 things lead to the choices you make, and the choices you make end up giving you where you are now. So, in my opinion, self-awareness has a lot to do with those things, because to master it and get what you want, these are the things that you have to practice. You have to go, and sometimes you're gonna make the wrong choice, because like they were saying, it's in layers. It's a self-improvement thing. I don't think perfection is the goal ever. I think it's more so you try to get better each day. If I always say aim as high as you want, but if you're aiming for perfection, all you're going to get is disappointment, because it's kind of like a paradox. Like there's a lot of perfections in the imperfections. That's the beauty of it. Variety is the spice of life. So you can't be 100% all the time. It's not part of being human. I don't even think gods are at that point.
When you were younger and you were really starting to figure it out, did you ever have a moment where you said to yourself, I am? Did you ever, like, just in your mind go, oh my gosh, I am?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. See, a lot of people thought I was egotistical. And arrogant because of that, because I always stepped to the beat of my own drum.
Right.
Like,
I know the feeling.
Even like grown-ups, like they would say something, and like, I mean, I'm not disagreeable on everything. If it makes sense, I'm like, okay. But other times when I thought it was foolish, I'd be like, no, I'm gonna do it this way. And my intuition must be really strong, because I prove a lot of people wrong all the time. Not just my own doing, but it's just, you can ask Jasmine. My resume doesn't lie.
I love that, Nick. That's awesome. How about you? Oh, did you have something else?
I lost my thought. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
sorry. Jasmine, I'm curious. How do you identify with self-awareness?
So back to that picture that you had before, the I am thinking, the feeling, doing, and thinking. I actually realized that I started doing it backwards. I started asking myself why and what am I thinking, and then to why am I doing this, and then really now in my 30s, I'm like, why am I feeling this? So that's like kind of like some of the stages or like the levels that I was mentioning before.
Mm-hmm.
Because it started like, trigger warning for me, it started like really really early. I remember I was in diapers and my mom wasn't being very nice to me. And as kids, the first instinct they have is to cry for their mom, and they cry for their mom. And then I remember a voice telling me, like, why are you crying for the person that's causing you this pain? And I'm like, oh, you're so right, you're so right. And then I was like, why am I doing this? And then I'd be like, why would then what am I? And then that instant, I don't know if it was like self-preservation or like whatever kicked in, but ever since then I haven't been able to stop asking why. So then I met a professor, not a professor because it was in grade school still, a science teacher. He said, keep asking why until you can't ask why no more. And so then I was like, okay, so I ran with it. And then when I got to college, then I started learning about psychology. And then they taught us the different schools of thought. So you have like the Enneagram, which tells you like how you were created and why you have these defense mechanisms and why you react this way. And, it has like relationships with your mother, father, and like your siblings. And like, it tells you why you react the way you do. Then it goes into MBTI, which tells you like your natural traits, your natural skills, what you're good at, what you're bad at. And then you go into sociology, how you as that personality type interact with the other personality types. And then it hits the spiritual world where it was like, okay, so how do you affect other creatures and other living spaces, and how does that universe respond to you? So those were my stages and how I got to it. So self-awareness to me just means like, how well do I know myself? How open am I to my self-discovery? And how well am I adapting and learning and figuring out what makes me tick with the universe? So then that's when you start going into other self-discovery modes, which would be like, you have astrology, you have like tarot cards, you have nature, you have friends. But that's the beauty of life, is because that self-discovery can be everywhere. And it's not going to be there all the time, because we all still have like, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name, but the pretty blonde lady, she was saying,
Trina.
We're all beautiful, by the way.
She was saying how we start to have like this consciousness of how we're affecting the world around us. And that makes it beautiful, because then it becomes an exchange with the universe, and then how that vibration brings it back onto us. And it's not always turned on, it's a skill, it's a tool. That's why we have meditation, that's why you have journaling, which in science, psychology, we call it journaling, but in the metaphysical, you call it shadow work. It's the same thing. You have to be able to sit down and ask yourself, well, why was I acting so rashly? Why was I triggered by X, Y, and Z? And then in the moment, I can't think straight. I'm so hyped up in emotion. And there was an excellent quote that they said that being held by anger is like looking at boiling water. You can't see your reflection clearly. You have to wait for the water to calm, and then you can see things clearly. So what I started doing is not ignoring those emotions or those outbursts. I started like kind of like not suppressing them, right? But kind of like putting them in a little bottle, and then being like, all right, so this is like a tap of anger. This set me off. Like if you heard now, like I saw a TikTok today that was about a friend that went on vacation and his roommate was home and was attacking his cat. And I was just like, oh my God. And I got so heated out of like a video. And I was just like, okay, chill guys. We know where this is coming from. We know this is coming from because you're so defensive of animals. You treat them like your own kids. We understand. You're right. let karma deal with that one. Yeah. Okay. So it was it's a journey, and you should be able to enjoy the journey and make time for that reflection, make time for those questions, make time for that discovery. You have to take time for yourself. It's not selfish, it's self-preservation.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up the journaling aspect of things, because really, if you want to go deep and get into who you are and what's going on, to get your emotions down on paper, because you can't really lie to yourself that way. You really, really get into the deepest part of, what you're dealing with and what's coming up for you. Something
Journaling is
else,
so
Nick?
powerful
Yes.
because your subconscious mind is so open to you. And if you
Right.
read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective
It's
People
not
or
going to
highly
edit you.
teams,
Mhm.
no, it's always there to prove you right, and it's always ready to listen, and it's always ready to be what you want it to be. So if you tell yourself I'm bad at math, guess what?
Mhm.
Your subconscious mind is going to make you bad at math.
Right. Oh,
So
you want some of that? Here you go.
yeah, it's like, oh, okay, here you go. What else do you want to tell me? Which is
Yeah.
why you get scared watching scary movies. Your conscious
Mhm.
mind knows you're just watching a movie, but
Mhm.
your subconscious mind thinks you're in actual danger, which is why you get
Yeah.
scared.
And the same
So
goes for the positive thinking. The more
yeah,
positive you are, the more the more you're going to get that back.
which is weird because that goes into what kinesiology, where
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
start smiling, then all of a sudden your
Mhm.
brain's like, oh, we're supposed to be happy. It's like,
Yes.
wow, you're so easy to manipulate.
Just do what I tell you and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, but it's so fascinating to me because it's like we're
Yeah.
tiny little computers, but we're also tiny little like creatures with
We're
emotions
so
and feelings.
complicated, aren't we?
It is,
We're
but
just like
it's so
incredibly
beautiful.
complicated. Yeah.
I remembered
Thank
my
you.
train of thought.
Okay, go ahead.
It was about the choices. That
Okay.
I was going to add on to that. So sometimes you can do everything right, and life still throws you a curveball and it makes you lose.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't have the critical information. I'm especially prone to this one. And because you don't have the critical information, you make the wrong choice. You have to be okay with that.
Mhm.
Part of self-awareness and growth is being able to accept the outcome of a choice
Mhm.
that you can't go back from,
Mhm.
analyzing it with a clear mind instead of getting filled with fear or panic or all
Mhm.
those other negative emotions that will start putting you through a degradation,
Yeah.
and learn from it. Just learn from it for
And
next time.
also thinking about it, there's no right, there is no wrong, there just is. It's just choices that you're making. And to put a label of right
Right.
or wrong kind of puts more pressure on yourself. But if you just kind of step back and go, I made these choices, I have to take responsibility for them, and I've got to move forward from it. What did I learn from it?
Yeah.
That's really all that matters, is what did you get out of that circumstance? Because you have ample opportunities to make other choices and to make different choices in the future. So without those negative choices, as you say, you wouldn't have
Mhm.
understood what you want and not what you don't want.
Yep. The only
Yeah.
difference between
It's
a winner and a loser is a winner didn't give up after he lost. That's it.
Yeah.
true. How true. I'll maybe just add on to that. And that is that's when you know, Jasmine said earlier in the
Hmm.
chat that things get easier. So you know you've reached a certain level of awareness because it just becomes easier and easier. Like me today, off for a second, back onto what I was doing. So it gets easier and easier to recognize, but you got to get to that point where you're doing the work. And um, I think that the next progression is once you've identified your characteristics and traits that you know are controlling you instead of you controlling them,
Hmm.
and you're projecting them instead of growing from them, is when you start to connect the dots. And what I mean by that is all those feelings of anger, sadness, shame, guilt, happiness. Um, you could describe and isolate each one of them
Hmm.
fairly quickly. but then you connect, you go, okay, can I differentiate between when I'm feeling something, like, do I know when anger's behind it versus when joy is behind it? So it's when you start connecting all the elements together and learning, and then you become the alchemist of your own experience, because what you're doing is you're understanding the underlying root cause of another emotion that's causing an emotion or a masking of an emotion to not be true. And so that's a development that takes time. That's why it takes so long to get to know yourself. And I just wanted to add that in there, because that's part of emotional maturity, is being able to put all those pieces together and realize I need to change that, or mix a different emotion in there. So
If you
now
could
when somebody,
see,
I use humor a lot now to diffuse the situations. Go ahead, Laurie.
if you could see emotions like colors, you could identify the colors instead of the emotion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So kind of utilize that. Like if you're feeling happy, yellow, orange, if you're feeling mad or angry, red, or, dark colors. Identify your emotions by the color, and then you kind of you look at things a little more objectively instead of so, succinctly. Jasmine, did you have a comment there real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Inside Out does a really good
Yes, that
representation of
movie?
that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Inside
yeah.
Out.
I love that movie. It's a great
Which
movie.
is
Yeah,
great. It helped
Disney.
me learn
Oh,
about
yeah, yeah.
emotions.
It was perfect.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, I was saying earlier that emotions are like painting. It's like when you finally go from black and white to like actually to color television. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, like I
Yeah.
didn't realize it
Oh
could be
my
this.
God, look at the pixels.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So then
Yeah.
that's how you start to appreciate even like the negative emotions, like anger,
Yes.
disgust. You know what I mean? They
Yes.
add
Mhm.
color.
I totally agree.
As long as it's done in a healthy way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
there's the golden rule is as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting another person, hey,
Mhm.
have fun, explore,
Right.
be human. Like, but my thought on what Theresa was saying was more along the lines of I think people are getting lost because like some of us are more at the other stages or at the other gates.
Mhm.
So where it starts is you can just start as simple as why do I like pizza versus salads, you know? Just ask yourself like why do you prefer certain colors? Why do you prefer certain foods? Why do you prefer certain people? Why do you prefer,
How's it
you know what I
making
mean?
you feel? Mhm.
Exactly.
Why are you
So
making this choice?
yes,
Yeah.
just for me, it started with asking why. You
Mhm.
know, with the pictures that you shared, Lori, it's asking, "What am I? What am I thinking? What am I doing?" So whatever phrase connects with you,
Mhm.
just to make you start looking at yourself. Like I kind of what helps me visualize it because I'm a big visualizer is like,
Mhm.
what if I was a character on TV? What if I was watching a movie? Like,
Mhm.
what am I doing?
Mhm. You're trying to look at it from a much more objective view as the
Yeah.
observer instead of so caught in the emotion and the
Yes.
feeling of it.
It's a
Yeah.
third person
Yes, a
perspective.
third person perspective.
Yes,
Yes,
which goes
agreed.
back to what you asked Stellabor. Like, if you did
Mhm.
everything right,
Mhm.
technically you'd be a robot because you would be programmed just through logic, just
Yeah.
logic alone.
You don't learn from doing
Mhm.
everything perfectly. You learn from all of the
Yeah.
mistakes you've made.
Yeah, and
That's how you learn.
that's what makes it personable. That's what
Yeah.
makes it feel like it has a soul is
Mhm.
because of that complexity. So, could there be good people by just following the book? Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
but is it gonna feel like a good person?
Right,
No.
right.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
very awkward, and
Right.
it's not gonna feel right, and then it's
Mhm.
like, are you gonna be it's to me, it's like, okay, sure, that robot might be logically right, and it will be sound of mind, but what if it turns into iRobot? What happens if they mess with their coding? What happens if all of a sudden there's a new law that says, "Hey, if you wear cat glasses, you're a freak." Like, you
Yeah.
know, like, you
Yeah.
can't have it like that. You have to have that conditional thinking, that
Mhm.
what is it called? Critical thinking to be
Mhm.
able to piece these things together, and the only way you'll be able to think for yourself is if you
Mhm.
start asking yourself those
Yeah.
questions.
And if you have cat glasses, that means you can see better.
Yes.
In the dark, even.
Hannah,
Yeah.
you
We need to
can,
get to Hannah.
yeah.
Thank you. So Hannah, how about you? Thank you, Jasmine. How about you, Hannah? How do you identify with self-awareness?
I just wanted to say everyone's conversation is amazing. It's awesome. A little backstory, I guess. I remember being very, very young, maybe still in diapers. I became aware that I can control my dreams. And then it dominoed into I am conscious of moving my hand. Even if I tell it to stop or move, it's not moving because I have control of my mind. And it became very like apparent. I don't know, I'm young, you know, and I would go up to my parents and I would be like, you're feeling this way, and a little trigger warning, I guess, but I'd be like, Mom, you're depressed, like you're feeling like why don't you want to be on earth, basically?
You're identifying the emotions.
Yeah.
At a very early
I didn't know.
age.
I was embracing it with love. I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels really strange. Let's talk, you know.
Let's examine this, shall we?
And my mom would get really angry with me and called me lying, and I'd be grounded. Come to find out a few years later that I was right. So it made me kind of like that. I would say something, people would call me lying. Oh my gosh, you know. And I didn't really know what was happening, and I would identify with these things, thinking that they were me. I remember dreaming about me being in like this all space of everything that I am that you say. And it was very confusing for me being young, because I'm like, what do you mean? People don't experience this. I think everyone experiences this. What do you mean other people don't? And I learned that you can only meet people as far as they meet themselves. Yes. And that is okay.
Yeah.
Everyone is self-aware at the level of where they're at. Whatever that means. And that's where it gets into layers. Emotional, intelligence, and spiritual for me. Like you can be emotionally aware, but not spiritually aware.
That's very true.
You can be intellectually aware, but not emotionally aware.
That's very true.
And it all kind of bases off of experience, I think. And I think about the path of neuroplasticity. And it's basically it's basically in the brain that what you think, nerves will start to connect. And it takes time, but nerves will start to connect in order for you to actually embody that and believe that. And basically through neuroplasticity, through somatic things like breathing, yoga,
rewiring,
thinking, rewiring. We can basically reprogram ourselves cellularly, genetically, to what we think and believe. So now it goes into honesty and how honest you are about your situation and experience and what you are doing to learn more. There's dialectual behavioral therapy, which a lot of people go through, and it's becoming more popular, and it's learning cognitive emotion and emotional things. I think in my experience, it's like self-awareness is how aware I am functioning in my reality as the I, meaning ego. And also the self-awareness of how aware we are interconnectedly with the whole I am definition. Both are to be balanced. If you're teetering into that. And
how would you tell someone how to find the balance? How do you actually find that balance when you're someone that's kind of teetering and you're not quite sure? How do you reach that level of balance?
I can't tell anyone how to.
They have to find it within themselves.
You have to find it within themselves as their own unique being. You know, I think along with the lines of, if everyone had perfect self-awareness, I don't think there'd be any experience at all.
No. It'd be downright boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be like, wow, this is gonna happen
You think?
now. This is gonna happen now.
Like,
This
well,
is gonna
why
happen
even
now.
bother?
Oh man, the
Yeah.
anticipation. What's gonna change now?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and
yeah. Or how
um,
differently can I do it this time?
yeah,
How can I find myself this time in a different way, a different time, and a different body?
I see thoughts in Trina's head. Did you want
Yeah,
to add anything to
go
that,
for
Trina?
it, Trina. Go for it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful because all the layers of consciousness. You know, I've seen miracles in healing work where other people, I've witnessed these things, and it's so spot on. It's like the trinity of consciousness. All three must agree: body,
Mhm.
mind, spirit. And you know, one of the greatest tools for me in discovering the roots is when have I felt like this before? The more I go into the work of how the brain is putting in trauma and memories, it seems it's not as much about a thought as it is a feeling. So the feelings seem to be the actual map. So
yeah,
when you're like, when have I felt like this before? You really start to see
You're,
the pictures of trauma or situations that hold that similar range of frequencies. And it's
yes.
amazing how you package things in different, like you say, neural pathway sets, and how you can reroute those when you can see it from a higher place in your consciousness. And you know, that's part of the self-awareness part. It's learning that what we think about so much of our own trauma is not actually the way it's being perceived by your higher self. And when you can blend those two conceptions together, and the body and the mind and the spirit all agree to make a change, wow, that's when you see phenomenal healing. So
I've
I was
had
just in
to,
Being on
agreement
the
with
same page.
yes.
Yep.
layers
I've
are
had to, because I didn't have any adult to tell me what I was experiencing was deeply spiritual. I had to kind of learn it on my own. And so all these projections onto me, I was like a sponge. And so when I started beginning shadow work, I wrote down all the things that I thought I was, good and bad, and all the things that I didn't think I was, good and bad. And I realized, oh my God, I'm all of it.
yes.
And then I took it a step further. I was like, everyone that I'm seeing, it's just like how I'm perceiving them is a reflection of me.
Of me. Yes.
And to be so honest about even negative experiences, I would give myself that permission to kind of like, okay, what is my ego saying when in the middle of my shadow work? And then I would take a second and be like, yeah, everything I fucking said, or sorry, everything I said. I'm so passionate. Everything
No,
I
it's all
said,
good. It's all good. We're all
everything I
adults here.
said is me. And to really face that, okay, so if I saw this person as blank, 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 okay, why do I feel this way in myself? And then all the emotions would come up, and the shame and the guilt and the projection of, oh, this is an illusion, this is a lie, and I'm just like dominoing it on
Seeing
this,
yourself and others.
yeah. And it's the step back and being like, okay, what am I thinking of this person? How am I receiving this? Okay, what is that saying about me?
I think Jewel said it best in her song, "Do you hate him because he's pieces of you?"
Right? Yes.
And how do you tell someone how to achieve the balance between the spiritual and physical? Again, it's some people aren't meant to be conscious of that.
Right.
And I'm not meant to push that onto other people.
It's that journey into the self. It's discovering
That's right.
who you truly are, and no one else can do that for
No
you.
one.
You have to really want that, and you need the love and support to do it. You really do.
No, Trina, just so because Hannah and Nick and Jasmine haven't had an opportunity to meet up with you before, I don't think. So Trina is a mega healer. She works in different modalities. Trina, can you tell them just briefly what you do?
Well, it started when I got my first chiropractic adjustment at 9 years old, and I stood up and said, you know, I can do that, right? So I've always had some weird memories of old healing ways, and that I got certified in 19 healing modalities because I had all these extraordinary like childhood gifts. Like everybody's like, that's not real. And I was like, I want to go see if it is real. And I was told you're supposed to go be like Jesus. I'm like, well, I better get busy. I better get educated. I mean, I don't know what to do here, So through that process, I started exploring myself. And that's when I was in, classes with 60 people and profound things are happening. And my instructors are like, how can you hold this frequency? It's because I never left it. I always was, sidely connected to these other dimensions. And I would just, and when I tried to like be normal and stop it when I was a teenager, man, they sent demonic energies after me. They're like, you don't want to walk with us? Well, we're going to show you what it's like not to. Man, they weren't playing with me. I was getting it hardcore. So, so I've learned 19 different healing modalities through Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. And I'm also a certified licensed journey work practitioner. And it's very similar to like the QHHTs and the different modalities that you see where you go into trance. And through these modalities and these different things, I've just seen so much magical healings and
witnessing that's got to be mind blowing. Yeah.
I think because I apparently put up quite a fight to come in here, but I think that's what got me was to witness miracles. I think I'm like, that's what got me to sign up. That was it. And that's why you came here to be like Jesus. Well, that's what he was. He was a way shower. I come to show you what you can do. See, I do it. And then now he's like, dude, now it's your turn. Chop, get busy. Yeah. What's the holdup? And I've seen people do it. So this is not an unreasonable request. And when I was a kid, I thought, this is not even, I mean, that's not nice to say that to me. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's a pretty tall order, and I didn't even know about half the stuff he could do yet. So I was just like, this is pretty tall order, but it's only because it's totally doable. And each one of us have these different magical healing gifts. And all of us literally were born into an elemental, alchemical, magical soup of the moment of your birth. And that again is another brilliantly unique gift that only you hold. So,
and that's interesting because I have a question. Do you see your gifts as something you give yourself, Trina?
I think that we all have these abilities through the inner child network of your neurology. And the only reason that you don't utilize these superpowers, this superpower stuff we have with all these superheroes, these are real people. They're real. So many people know they do shoot fangs out their fingers and they do shoot laser beams out their eyes. And these things really are potentials. I mean, and I'm pretty sure they probably already exist, but they take these people away as soon as they spot them. So I think that this is something that's been exhibiting in humanity for very long. We've just not been able to see it.
So it really is your reality because you've experienced it and you've witnessed it. So you're living your reality. Yeah,
and I've seen people that don't believe it, that it's in them. They think other people can heal them and, do that kind of stuff. But when they activate their own power, that's when the healing doesn't go away. It's
and it's not just physical, it's mentally, emotional.
Oh, that's 90%
gamut.
of it. Yeah, 90% of it is the emotional battle. Like I said, you have to get through the feeling process because the feeling is what maps the body, and it maps it in the physical. Yeah, it maps it in the fascia of the body. It maps it in the neural pathways in the body. So to reroute your consciousness, you literally have to see it from a different mind that it was currently in before. But when you can shift that mind, body, awareness to mind, body, and spirit, when all three agree and say, yes, I can see it from a different position, and now I'm ready to change it, and now I'm ready to heal it. You see people do amazing things in minutes. I was showing Brian a video of Greg Braden, and he went to this place, and they dissolved a tumor lifetime with an ultrasound on TV.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they break up kidney stones that way as well.
Yeah,
why can't they break up? Yeah.
Yes.
Hannah,
So that,
you have
yeah.
I'd love to share this too.
Sure.
When we see other people experiencing emotions or mindsets, and then we have a reaction. Well, first of all, I'd love to add, as a massage therapist and as a healer, I don't heal anybody.
No,
I don't. I facilitate the safety
I've
of
heard
another
that
person's
over and
healing.
over. Yep, I've heard that a lot.
And for me to be in a safe energy and vibration, I have to have a good relationship with whatever emotion and whatever mindset they may be experiencing, and to accept it and love it, because then that is going to reflect, oh, I can love this too. I can let this go. I can give permission to let this go. And having that faith in, like, you are loved no matter where you're at, is the safety that I think everyone would love to experience and have and need, and just give themselves that permission of, like, I love myself and I am being honest about this emotion and I don't want to have it anymore, mind, body, spiritually. They can facilitate their own healing. However, we are humans, and connection is something that we would like to experience. It is healthy for us biologically. So to have that person had to be like, hey, you're here with me, like, that's totally fine. That's amazing. So for me, so to have that, oh wow, that person's angry. I'm having maybe not the healthiest response sometimes, I don't know, to that experience. Say someone's coming to me for healing and I'm like, ooh, you shouldn't feel that. I'm just projecting that I have a bad reaction to that emotion. And I'm not accepting that within myself, which is in turn not giving them the space
to be who they're going to be.
To be who they are.
Who they choose to be. Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Fascinating discussion, you guys. This is just incredible. I hope. Go ahead, Jasmine. I'm sorry.
I think healing goes really well with this topic because when you're self-aware, right, it's basically what you're allowing yourself to believe. So the way that we do these healings is because we're trying to convince the person to change their mind, to allow themselves to heal, to allow themselves to feel, to allow themselves to actually face themselves. It's like an immersion effect. You know what I mean? Like when you go to Disneyland, you're like, it's like a whole new world, you know, because you're immersed in it, you know? It's funny because like
it's exciting.
And then all of a sudden you start it's allowing yourself to feel, be alive, exist, and face these things. And it's funny because Jim, the guy that we go with at All My Relations, he said that when he went to a psychic fair that he got like almost no customers, like no one coming to him for advice and stuff. He's like, oh, that's weird. And then he sat down and looked around and he's like, oh, I don't look weird enough. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because everyone, so there was people wearing turbans. There was people like having incense everywhere. There was people with like all of this, like, you know, stones and stuff, like really setting the immersion.
He'd be the one to walk up to.
Yeah.
He would be the one I would go to.
Really? Because he's like, I just went with like.
Same here.
Just like my glasses. And I was just like, okay, I'm ready. And then he was just like, I got like 2 or 3. But then I just think that all of these things, it's all part of the play, you know what I mean? And it's all part of self-discovery and how much are we allowing the other person to discover themselves with the environment that we place.
And some people don't want to go there. Some people choose not to. And they really get ticked off when they start hearing you spouting your truths and beliefs. Well, it's not just a belief, it's my reality. I'm sorry. It's just who I choose to be at this moment.
People love to argue with me because like I was part of that group that was more intellectual than feeling, right? But I was with a bunch of college students and they'd always be like, I was always inclined to this, right? And they'd be like, you can't believe germs don't exist. Like that's just a scientific fact. Germs exist.
No.
So how is your belief or your perception going to stop from germs existing?
Right.
And then I was like, Well,
That's like saying the internet doesn't exist.
right?
What?
Well, you can't see it. You just,
Yeah.
it's not right in your face.
So then
But
I was like,
it's there.
no, but you can have effects on it. Then I point them to the movie, what is it called? The Miracle movie, where it's like, but you see how psychology and your self-thoughts and self-talk have a lot to do with the body. Although I can't change the existence of bacteria, I can change the effects of that bacteria within my own body. So it's really fascinating because I bring them scientific evidence of where women, when they hardcore believe that they're pregnant, their belly start extending. They start lactating. Why? Because they believe that they're pregnant and their body responds to it. There's other cases of where they tell like cancer patients, like, you have X amount of months to live, and then they die on the spot, right? But if they tell like, oh, we're not sure when you're gonna die, it could be this, it could be that, and they end up exceeding it. It's like, what about the whole placebo effect? Do you think that's not real? That's scientific. The placebo effect exists. So I'm not saying that your way is completely wrong or my way is completely right. I'm just saying the truth is somewhere in the middle, and I like having more control.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Wonderful
Yeah.
point. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Jasmine.
I'm sorry. I thought, Dalibor, did you have something you wanted to add?
Not necessarily to this particular flow, no.
Okay. I just thought I saw your finger go up. Who's playing that tropical music?
So we're coming, believe it or not, we're coming to the end of the hour and a half. So I'd like to get to some final thoughts. I know it went by really quick, but great discussion. I'll tell you what, let's start with you, Hannah Ray, on your final thoughts on this topic of self-awareness.
All right. Well, I feel called to talk about this. So a lot of people like to function in, from what I've experienced, I think. I don't see a lot of it, at least in my experience. So here's the I know. People function in the I know and I am. There's a middle, I will. And I feel like this kind of gets us in the flow of the now, and like, I will do this. You know, I have the confidence too.
Instead of saying I'll try,
or instead of
will.
I try, or I am, or I know. Like it's the functionality. I don't know why I felt like I needed to say that, but okay. I think I had a thought. I think highlighting I think everyone is as self-aware as they are meant to be. You know, if I think that we're all learning. I think that somebody disagreeing with someone is essentially part of the whole play. Maybe that person is learning boundaries. Maybe that person is learning something. And for me to judge them of, oh, that person's not self-aware is only a reflection of me just because they disagree with me. That's silly. I'm learning that emotions, and I'm reading this book, emotions are a phenomenon of our response to outside stimuli that have to do with survival. And that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. They are fuel. They can be like used as a tool or fuel to navigate us in life. It's not meant to be the same for everyone. And for others to judge other people for their experience and where they ended up in life and what they chose to do. I think we need to have more compassion for other people and ourselves, especially because we're one and the same. And to give people the space to face themselves, and not everyone's journey is meant to be the same. Some people are on this road of ascension or going to other dimensions and whatnot. And some people are here to
just experience the 3D,
not be aware of it. And that's for the best.
Yep.
We're talking about that today.
That's the experience they're choosing. So you got to respect that and give them that.
And I think our values and our morale can be valuable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting. Thank you,
Well,
Hannah.
sometimes, Hannah, that was wonderful because,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people that you're closest to, like a family
Mm-hmm.
member or a good friend, sometimes they've been put in front of you as part of that agreement, that soul agreement.
Yeah.
And so that you can see reflections back to what you want to work on or what you need to accomplish while
And those are
you're here.
gifts.
And
Mm-hmm.
yes, those are gifts, and so that's their only purpose. I mean, not their only purpose, but their purpose might not to be on this same journey of self-awareness or
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
But the fact
respect
that they
others'
showed up in
journey.
your life, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they
Yeah.
showed up, hey, here,
Mm-hmm.
that is
yeah,
your bestest friend. I don't,
Yep.
maybe my
yeah.
perception
Get the
of
most out of those relationships.
because I
Yes.
can have relationships that feel good all the time, but am I really going anywhere without that humbleness moment of, oh, I'm ever changing by the second and I'm
Mm-hmm.
never the same? Who's gonna humble me if I need to be humbled? Who's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like, hey, Hannah, you got a little too comfortable there. Did we fix this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay if yes, it's okay if not. And
Mm-hmm. Because you have infinity to figure it out, don't you?
yeah. Do we ever figure
You
it
don't
out?
get it this time. You can work on that next time. Yeah.
Do we ever figure? And I feel like that's what a lot of people like the concept of enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
and enlightenment is still a concept that I'm intrigued by and what it is exactly and etc. I think just the awareness of love and that you are
Yeah.
and I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. I don't think that I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. It's a lot to digest, isn't it? Trina, Brian, final thoughts. Thank you, Hannah Ray.
Thank you.
Hey, Trina.
Final
Yeah,
thoughts.
when I look at self-awareness, I love to look and reflect at what I learned through healing. And the first things that you do when you bring somebody into your table or wherever you're doing it is they call it, setting the fulcrums. You want to set the energy. And the first thing you want to do is find something about that person that you fall in love with, even if it's the color of their pants. Just find something about them that you resonate with. And then the next thing is what she was talking about, Hannah, was the holding of the space. You set and you hold the space for them. You're like, I'm here to support you. I'm here to hold the frequencies and serve as your antenna to help guide and facilitate these energies, to wake you and shake you out of your consciousness, to help your mind go into a new, plane of existence. And then the last thing was set the fulcrums. So you find something you like about them. Then I just lost my dang train of thought. I hate when that happens, but there's 3 things. So those 3 things that I want to do when I want to go to work on somebody to heal with them is hold space for them, find something about them that resonates with me, and build a frequency of connection. And that's
like a trust, you mean? Like a trust?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
resonance. Yeah, you want to put rapport and resonance with the person you're working with. I found that when I could learn to do that for myself through self-awareness, that's when I could do the greatest movement with my own shifting and my consciousness and my physical body to respond. It's like, I'm going to do for you what I do for others. And you know what I mean? And it's really powerful when you come to that balancing, because you realize that you are that powerful to do for yourself what you can intention and want for other people. You can do it for yourself. And it's the same process of learning to build relationship with somebody you may not even ever have met before, to invoke and help them facilitate their healing properties. You do the same thing for yourself. You go pretty far.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well said. Thank you, Trina. Grandpa Brian, final thoughts for you?
For me, it's more about realization that I am more than just this meat puppet. Realization
I love that term.
I've had many past lives and I've done these before. The realization that I do have lessons to be learned, and have I learned from those lessons. All those realizations help me become aware of myself, knowing that there's more to this aspect of me than what is right here, right now in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Much broader you. There's a much broader you there to discover. Yes. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Nick, Jasmine, final thoughts for you too? Thank you, Brian.
My pleasure.
Oops, can't hear you guys.
He's muted.
Yep, cannot hear you. There we go.
Not bad. Sorry.
It's all good.
It was so my final thoughts is Scotty mentioned this earlier, self-honesty. These questions won't really serve you if you're not honest with yourself. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, hey, yeah, you know what, this is kind of out of place. I gotta, kind of change that. And it's fine to be yourself as long as you're not hurting yourself and as long as you're not hurting others. I think still respecting life is a big thing. And then also putting into perspective of live and let live, But there's also another thing that I wanted to mention about judgment. Everything is in balance, right? Everything in excess is bad. You can have too many donuts and it's bad for you. You can have too much water and you'll drink it. Everything is in balance. Okay. So when we say judgment or your better judgment, it's not in a closed-minded fashion, because too much judgment will keep you closed-minded and won't let your mind explore new possibilities or other realities. Not enough judgment leaves you very manipulative. You can be swayed either way. You won't have an identity. You will go with the flow too much, and you won't know what you stand for because you're standing on sand. You're standing on quicksand. You don't have a foundation. So having enough judgment for yourself and honesty for yourself to build a character that can actually stand on solid ground. I think once you start building your character, you're going to have a lot of fun because even if you don't like where you are right now, you're still alive.
You have an opportunity to change it. Yeah.
Yes. Even if you've had mistakes in the past, face them, do what you can to rectify them. But what's stopping you from starting your redemption arc? Everybody loves redemption. When the villain starts turning into the hero, like Zuko from the Avatar, if you guys ever seen that show, but
yes,
it happens. And to me, it's like nothing's over until you're dead. And even when you're dead, you have your next lifetime. So really the only thing that's stopping you is you. So how long are you going to be the oppressor in your own story? When are you going to start building yourself up? So that's my final thought.
Okay.
Find the character that you want to be and start building it.
There you go.
There you go.
Anna has a thought about this real quick, and then we'll come to you, Nick.
I had a conversation with somebody, and basically we were talking about what Jasmine was saying, and he goes,
well said,
you know
Jasmine.
What? Very well said. And he went, you know what? I didn't know that I was operating in such a way until someone called me out. And that goes with self-awareness. Some people in the ego do very, very nicely. Sometimes the ego tricks you and it thinks that it's doing something, but it's actually not. Like, I am a great person here. And your actions are a bit questionable. And integrity's a bit, really? And he's like, yeah, I didn't know that I was mean until someone called me out and used their own perception of that. And they said, my family, we normalized it until I went out, they made friends. And I'm saying I, but I'm talking as if I am. And someone who blatantly saw that it was not normal, whatever that means, says, hey, you're making me feel this way. Stop. And he's like, what do you mean? And then a few days later, he's like, oh my God, I was. So it's kind of like, okay, we can, for us, if someone's like projecting those nasty things at us, we're like, wow, that's them. Da, 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 da. And we remove ourselves from conflict.
So differently, yeah.
But sometimes that conflict helps people when they're available to receive that. Like, hey, you're treating me like this. Are you aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like that. And
Yeah.
you're setting your boundary or your self-respect, and you can walk away, or you can be like, yo, you're doing this. And it helps people. And yeah, I just wanted to say that. Don't be afraid to
I love this.
Mean.
Yeah, Loretta Enigma said this. My ego doesn't like to be called out for sure. I think it's time to trim her hair. That's cute. I like it. I liked it. Thank you, Hannah. All right, back to you, Nick, on the final thoughts.
Okay, through my studies, I have come to a conclusion in a lot of different cultures that all talk about a similar topic, and that is the whole light and dark concept. I personally feel like in this reality, it is a core lesson that everyone has to figure out, and it has a lot to do with self-awareness. Why? Because every person, I don't care how much of a saint you are, I don't care how much of a...
I already agree. I don't know what he's going to say there.
I don't care how much of a saint you are. I don't care if you're like the Antichrist. You have both light and dark aspects to yourself. And to rise above that, you have to accept both.
Yes.
Accept your bad side and your good side.
Yes.
Look at it subjectively and master it.
Yeah.
Once you start doing stuff like that, then you can start transmuting your bad habits into good ones.
You are Hitler and all of the people he murdered.
Oh. I mean,
that is me. That is me. That is me.
If everything is unity, that's
true.
Not true and true at the same time.
It is, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a core lesson. I think being able to mix the two to a point where you rise above it is a core lesson that everyone needs to learn.
That's what you do.
That's why I strive for that balance. It's probably why I picked number 4 as my life path this time.
Yes.
So
this is interesting. Let's look at your number 4 life path real quick. You're the individualist. You are the individualist.
That's
this
the
is an enneagram.
The enneagram. So this is my bread and butter. So 9, 8, 9, and 1. That has to do with the anger triad.
Yes.
So that's the gut, and then 2, 3, and 4. That's the shame. So basically, you have your identity, right? The identity you project out into the world comes from your shame, your 2, 3s, and 4s. And then your motivations come from your head, from fear, your 7, 6, and 5s. And then your like inner turmoil, inner dialogue comes from the anger triad. And it's so funny because this symbol popped up all across the world overnight, and no one can find its point of origin because it was broadcasted everywhere. And the more I looked at it, the more it looked like a moving, what we were talking about last week, Laurie, the
Tetra
Merkaba.
The Merkaba, yes.
The Merkaba in motion. That's what this looks like in
yes,
its
it does.
Form.
Yeah.
So to me, it has math in it. It has chakras in it. It has numerology in it. It's amazing, but it does deal with the shadow self. This discipline will have you look at how you were created, how the world around you had a play in how you came out. So the anger triad is how the mother figure dealt with you. So if you had an aggressive mother figure, you're going to be an 8. If you had like a perfectionist mother figure, like you're never going to reach this, like you have always setting the bar higher and higher, you're going to be a 1. And if you had a non-existent mother figure, they're going to be a 9, because every 9, and this is funny because this matches like the metaphysical too. 9, 6, and 3. For some reason, the universe's favorite number is 9, 6, and 3. Those are in the middle because those can choose to be either 8s or they can choose to be 1s.
Good
they can
point.
be neither or both.
Yes.
So it's really great because if everyone has one number, and to an aspect, we all have all the numbers. It's just in hierarchy. It's like what you default to. So everybody has a number from the anger triad, everybody has a number from the fear triad, and everybody has a shame number, and that is your individual triad. So me, I'm a 7 wing 8 with a 3. And it's so fascinating. And again, it does deal with your shadow aspect, so you might have to run in through some dark days because it has you face, because no one came from a perfect childhood, to be honest. Everybody came with some quirks. Everybody had some things that had to deal that wasn't exactly perfect.
Yeah.
So whatever that generational curse is on you, this discipline will help you identify what that is. So
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. Thank you, Jasmine. That was great.
it is different than my path members, but it's
Final thoughts for Delabor?
Okay, optimal self-awareness. There is such a thing as having too much self-awareness, right? There is such a thing as having too little self-awareness. The key here again is balance, right? And
like baby bear's porridge, it's got to
exactly
be just right.
Just right, the Goldilocks zone.
Yes.
And just like you have senses, like what, touch, taste, smell, vision, whatever. So does the universe. So does everybody else around you. So you have to take into consideration not just what you're seeing and what you're hearing and what you're smelling, but how does society smell you? How does society hear you? How does society see you? Right? And kind of balance that in any way that you can wrap your head around that. You have more senses than just those 5, of course, because you have sense of morality, sense of justice, that sort of thing. So basically, it's about having a healthy self-awareness rather than just self-awareness, and not have that be the dominant be-all and end-all of your internal dialogue, but just balancing your own senses with the senses of the universe. How does the world perceive me? What value do I add to the world?
I love that.
I'd say that would be it.
Yeah. Thank you, Delabor. Love that.
Sure.
Thank you. Theresa, for you, final thoughts.
Yeah, I wanted to bring in the fact that hang on just a second. Hang on just a second. There we go. Okay, so I got to thinking about this a little bit, and we've talked about the emotions and how self-awareness is understanding your emotions, and how to transmute those emotions in different ways, and how we gain emotional intelligence as we go. But just remember, as we've discussed, I guess, my thoughts here would be, it is about thought. It's all in your mind. How you think, see, perceive things around you, and your relationship to those things around you, your awareness, your creation, your frame, as we talked about last week, your frame of existence, what you came here to be and experience, everything is through your thought. So even in esoteric teachings, and even in, say, Jesus, for example, he has, do not copy the behavior and customs of this world, but be transformed into a new person by changing the way you think, not only of the world, but about yourself and others. Then you will learn to know through your will which is good, pleasing, and perfect. All right. And here's another one. Take every thought captive. In 2 Corinthians, it comes from there. But the esoteric meaning is that Christ's spirit is in Jesus as he's teaching. He's actually saying that our intents should be to demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of the greater good, and that we take captive every thought to ensure that we are following the spirit of creation and natural law. And so that's how I've come to know this as an internal spiritual science, but it's a deep, deep love and appreciation for that which I've come here to create. So anything that stands in my way or blocks me or comes at me or confronts me is something that I'm probably feeling the inside, and it's reflecting back in some way to me. And so I have to keep my thoughts from wandering into many different directions or judging people or thinking that I'm going to not get to where I want to be because of the actions of someone else that's bothering me. Kind of like what I went through today a little bit. So when you come to realizations about people and you realize the truth about something that they're doing, and you realize, ooh, that's affecting me and setting me off, capture your own thoughts about who you really are and what you want to be and how you want to perceive yourself. Because if you perceive yourself as a loser, or you perceive yourself as an angry, cantankerous, bitchy type of a person, or a controlling person, or a violent person, that's what you will be. And I will also say to those who judge me, who have their opinions and thoughts about me, that's none of my business what you think about me. We've said that before on this show.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that be careful what you think about me, because you're creating that reality for yourself. And that's all I'll have to say. And I love you. I love each and every one of you, and I've enjoyed this journey of growing with you, and I appreciate
It's been
you.
amazing. Yeah, we
If
love
I
you.
can just
sharing.
add to Theresa, always believe, because the Bible says this too, God cannot tempt you more than what you can bear. So if you're going through this, that's because you're strong enough to endure it and grow from it. So always believe that the universe is working for you. It's always for your highest and best. As long as you truly believe that, you'll be able to see the silver lining, and you'll be able to see the beauty, or at least the lesson at the very least, to move forward. So always believe that the universe is working with you. And
thank you, Jasmine. Absolutely.
Wonderful, Jasmine.
You might not be able to do it when you're going through it at that second.
Right.
But as soon as you slap yourself out of it, or your bestie says,
snap out of it.
Snap out of it, like just snap out of it, then you can go, then that'll come to you. All these wisdoms, they will come. They will come. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, everybody, wonderful show. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. It was just a fantastic show. Lots of information. I hope everybody at home watching, the commenters, people in the chat room, I hope you all enjoyed this. We sure did love bringing this to you and talking about it, discussing it. So thank you for your participation as well. So
good to see you, Trina.
Yes, good to see you. Yes,
it's been a long time.
Yeah,
So
love
good
seeing
to
you.
see you all.
Yeah, thank you for being here
Thank you
tonight.
for
It was a
having
real
me.
treat. Yeah,
Well, thank
real
you for
treat.
having me.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right.
we told Brian to throw a net over you.
I was just racing to get home from work,
Yeah, and we know how hard that is for you on Fridays.
We know.
It really is.
We know.
But thank you for making the time.
Yes,
we
you're
really,
welcome.
really love you and appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
All yes, great love and respect.
Yes.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful week. A great weekend. Do something nice for yourself and for someone else. And choose love, and the rest is cake.
Love it when she says that. Let them eat cake.